everyone, and welcome to part 5 of our colour along. Today I am going to be colouring in the honey pot, the owl, the guitar and the cat. And first of all I'm going to start off with the honey pot because it's small and we will get it out of the way. So for the lid of the honey pot I am going to be using 50% warm grey in 1054, and I'm just going to do this very easy, very light layers from both sides, fading into the middle from left and right. And then I am going to be getting my 10% warm grey, and that is in 1050. I'm just going to go over the center of that there to blend them both together. And then I'm just going to take my black in 935 and just give that slight darker shadow on either side there. Get my 50% back, add a little bit extra in there and there, and that just makes the lid look slightly silver. And then for the honey pot itself I am using, for my darkest colour I have 1034 in Goldenrod, and for this I'm going under the lid. Again, a very light pressure and even lighter as you come down, and then you want up from behind the owl and from the boat. And then I'm going to take 1002, which is yellowed orange, and very lightly go over what I've just done, fading up and down towards each other. And then my final colour is Salmon Pink, and that is in 1001. And again, just very lightly go over everything. And then for the little bee there, I'm going to keep the yellowed orange and the goldenrod, and I'm going to do the whole bee in the yellowed orange. And then down from this edge here I'm just going to add a little bit of the goldenrod. And then in your wings just a very light addition of the goldenrod, so you can barely see it, but it does take the white out of the page. And then for the label I am getting PC 1084 in ginger root, and very lightly go over the whole thing, just again to take the white off of the page. And that is the honey pot finished. Actually I think I'll just go over with my yellowed orange again just on this part. Just so that it's not as pink. I think I put a little bit too of a heavy pressure on the salmon. There we go. So that's the honey pot done. again, I'm going to take the Goldenrod and the yellowed orange, and for the beak I'm just going to go over the whole beak in the yellowed orange very lightly, and then from the top I'm just going to take the Goldenrod and then go back in with the yellowed orange. And now for the owl's eyes, I'm going to get Irojiten pencils, and for this I am taking Parrot Green in V5 and Chartreuse Green in V4, and from the top edge here I'm going to use the darker green, which is the Parrot, and I'm going to put on a fairly medium pressure and come down lighter as you get to the bottom, and then the same on this side. Doesn't matter if you go over the highlight of the eye, as we will be putting that back in with Posca pen when everything else is coloured in. And then I'm going to outline the whole of the underneath of the eye in the darker colour, the Parrot Green. And then again around this section. Then I'm going to take my Chartreuse Green and fill in the rest and go over everything you've just done. And then I'm going to come back in with my Parrot Green, and I'm just going to put flecks inside the eye itself. And then the same on this side. That gives them a nice bright green colour eye. And then I am going to take my black Prismacolor, and that is 935, and I'm just going to go over the owl's pupil, the whole thing. Making sure that all of the white parts are taken away, and the same on this side. You can put a fairly hard pressure here. It's not really needed with a Prismacolor pencil though. And then very, very lightly, because you don't want this part turning black, I'm going to go over the top part in each corner here, just to add a bit of shadow, but without taking away the colour green. And that is his eyes done. Next, I'll do his hat, and for that I am using Prismacolors, and I am using olive green in 911. and apple green in 912. Again, I'm just taking my darkest colour, putting a fairly heavy pressure on, not too heavy, and fading out. And then the same on this side. And join in the middle. And then take your apple green and go over everything you've just done. And then take your black, and again, not hard, just a very, very light pressure. I'm hardly putting any on at all. Just go over your shadowed areas. And then for the hat itself, I am using French Greys. I'm using 90% in 1076. I'm using 50% in 1072. And I'm using 30% in 1070. And this time I'm using my 30% first, and I'm just going to go over the whole area, top and bottom. Now, because I had a lighter area here on this part of the hat on the ribbon, I'm going to try and keep this part of the whole hat a highlighted area. So I'm going to take my 90% French Grey and keeping my lightest pencil there, I'm going to start here and fade out. I'm not putting much pressure on at all. Enough so that you will see a difference. And again on this bit here, remembering that the owl's feathers come in front of the hat here, and then I'll do the same again here. I'm going to move my pencil out of the way for this section. As long as you kind of keep your lightest bit here, then it should look alright. So then I'm going to get my my 50% French Grey, and going over what I've just done, I'm going to fan that out a little bit further in. On all of the areas you've just done. And then just to blend it all back in together, I'm going to take my 30% French grey back and go over the whole thing again. And then, like I did with the green, I'm going to take my black and just do the shadowed areas very, very lightly. And then using the same colours for the feathers, I'm going to do the same again, but this time I'm also using my 10% French grey in 1068, and this is going to be the base colour. So go over the whole area of the feathers in the 10%. And then I'm going to go in with my 90%. And then following the direction of the lines already provided by Kelly, I'm going to very, very gently add individual feather strokes. And if you're using Prismacolors, because they are a very soft lead, make sure that as you're going, you turn your pencil so that you always have a sharp edge, because for this you don't really want a blunt pencil. So here my 50% is slightly blunt, so I'm just going to sharpen the edge, the point on that one, so that it is super sharp again. There we go. And doing the same thing, just go over the whole feather, adding lines in for the individual feather strokes. For this and the rest of the colours you can add more, because you can always come back in with your darker colour after you're done. Then I'm going to come in with my 30%. Again, this is slightly too blunt, so I'm going to give it a sharpen. Again, just go over the whole feather. And then finally I'm going to use my black again, and I'm not adding very many with this, and I am only pressing very, very lightly. I'm just going to add a few here and there. And that's his hat done. So next I'm going to do his guitar, and for that I am using light umber in 941, Goldenrod in 1034, and Beige Sienna in 1080. And I'm going to use this colour to put a base down for the wood. So because obviously these are strings here, you would see the underneath colour through them. So I'm just going to put a base everywhere. This is part wood, so that would also be this colour. And again this bit here. So you're basically putting this down everywhere. Then I am going to take my light umber and using this for the lay down of your shadows. I'm just going to, using a light pressure, map out where my shadows are going to be. This whole area would be shadows because it is a hole leading into the middle of the guitar. Quite a lot of shadow on this bit because it's behind the cat's tail. And then I'm going to use the Goldenrod just to give it a slight goldy orange tinge of wood, so that it's a bit of a contrast to the colours I'm going to use for the owl. So going over the shadowed areas I've just done, fanning it out to the edges. There aren't going to be many highlights on these sections because they're underneath the owl's wing. So how's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. It's nearly the end of February. We only have this week left. And then I'm going to go back with my beige sienna, and again very light pressure, just go over everything that you've just done, fanning it out to the edges. If you feel after doing this that you take away some of that goldeny yellow colour from the Goldenrod, you can always do another layer of Goldenrod just to bring it back in again. I'm going to do another bit just here because I feel like I've took it out too much. And then I'm going to go back in with my light umber, just because I feel like some of my shadowed areas have disappeared as well. So we'll just bring some of those back in. There we go. And then finally, for these tune and pegs here, I'm just going to do the silverish kind of colour. So I'm going back to my warm grey 10% in 1050. I'm just going to give them all a quick light coat, and then go in with my 50% warm grey in 1054, and just from the top edge of each peg I'm going to do a very light pressure and bring it down, getting my 10% back there and just blending that out a bit. And then using your black, just very, very lightly at the very top, give it a bit more of a shadow. And if you think you've done it too harsh, like what I think I have, just get your 10% back in there and just bring it down. And actually, I'm going to take my 10% French grey and just go around the edges here on the guitar. Just on my lighter edges. There we go. I think I'll take my black just for that whole. Actually no, I'll not go as harsh as black. I'll use my 90% French grey, and I'm just going to, for the whole, just so that it's shown as an actual hole and it's not part of the top of the guitar, add a bit of it deepening shadow on there. And then we will try and add the strings of the guitar back in when we come to do the detailing at the end. Then for the owl himself, I've got two sets of colours I'm going to use. I've got a colour that I'm going to use for around his eyes, and for that I am using Ginger Root in 1084, Artichoke in 1098, and Beige Sienna in 1080. And I'm just going to put a base coat down of the Ginger Root over the whole area of the eye, just on his feathers, because we have done the eye colour already in green. Do that on both sides. Here we go. And then I'm going to take my Artichoke, and starting from the base next to the colour of the eye, I'm going to do a light pressure and build it towards the edge, and I'm going to do that on each feather. For some of the feathers it's going to be less of the ginger root on the ends, but that's alright. You're not going to have a highlight on more, are you? And I'm just using a very light pressure again for this. Really just so I can see where the colours are going. Do that around both eyes. There we go. And then I'm going to take my beige sienna, and again going over what you've done from the base outwards. Not very much though, mainly just around the base, just to take out that deep greeny yellow of the artichoke from the base. But you don't want that gone completely, because the reason why I chose that colour, being for his feathers, is to kind of have a glow coming from his eye colour, so that it would all blend in together. And I'm not doing a heavy pressure with this, again it's just light. Do this side first. And then I'm going to go back to my ginger root and just make sure that there's no harsh edges between the colours. And so we're also taking away the white from the page as well. And again, if you feel like you've taken out too much of the artichoke, you can just go back in with it and do another light layer. And that's his eyes done. So we're just left with his body. And for his body, I have chosen a reddish kind of feather colour. And for this, I'm using 4 colours. I'm using the light umber in 941, Henna in 1031, Mahogany Red in 1029, and for my darkest shadows I'm using Tuscan Red in 937. I'm just going to put my Tuscan Red in one of my pencil extenders, just because it has gotten a bit short now. There we go. So I'm going to use my light umber first, and like I did with the eyes, this is going to be my lightest colour, and I'm just going to put a base down all over the whole area, very, very, very lightly, because this is a colour that if you press too hard can turn out to be very dark, and you don't want that at the moment. Don't forget his little finger feathers here. I know that's part of his body. Just thinking to myself, why is he missing the end off of his finger? But it's part of his body. There we go, and then I'm going to come in with my henna, and I'm going to start mapping out where my shadows are going to come from. Again, this is also a colour that if you put down too heavily can be quite dark, so we're just going in very, very lightly. Give him a bit of a shadow here. Come up from the boat. And there's going to be quite a bit of shadow around this section because you have these feathers that go over the top. You have his wing that goes over the top of his body. The guitar is on top of the body. And then you have the shadow coming from the boat as well. This whole section here will be dark. For this bit, even though we can see feathers sticking out, I'm not going to worry too much about a shadow being underneath each and every feather at this moment. sections will all be quite dark. And then I'm going to come in next with my Mahogany Red. Again with this colour, light pressure. So he's not going to be red as such, he's just going to have that red tinge to his feathers. And then I'm going to go back in with my light umber, just so that we don't completely get rid of the brown, because we do want him to have brown feathers, just with the orange colour, the red colour coming through. So we'll go back in with the light umber and just go over everything you've just done. Again, very, very lightly, because you don't want to take out the red that you've put down. And then for your darkest areas of shadowing, that is where you're going to bring in the Tuscan Red. So we're just going to take our Tuscan Red, and all the areas that have a definite shadow, we're just going to go around and highlight them out with this colour. Again, you don't want a heavy pressure and you don't want very much of it. This is just to emphasize where your shadows are and also the red in the brown feathers. You can use this colour now to do individual feathers, if that's the look you want. You don't have to though. Then I'm just going to take henna and just on the edges of the ears here, I'm just going to go over these bits and just on the top of his head. Just to blend the edge of the Tuscan Red in really. Oh, I've missed a part with the Tuscan Red, just underneath all these bits here. And there's another feather thrown. Go back with my henna and just go over those bits there. There we go, and that is Mr. Owl finished. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put all of these colours away and sort out my other colours for the cat, and I'll be back then. See you soon. Hiya everyone, I'm back. So as you can see from my picture, I had a bit of a mishap with recording and I chose my colours, I came back and thought that the video was recording and it wasn't, and I coloured in the cat and now she's done. So what I can do is I will still put the colours I've used for her in my description, and I can also, well, I have the PDF version of this, so if you would like me to go over how I coloured her in, I can do a separate video of how I did that just to show you. That isn't a problem at all, just let me know in the comments below. So I think now I'll quickly just move on to doing the sky, and then I will leave the next video for doing all the finishing details of the video. Right, so for my sky I am using Neocolor 2s, and I have black, and Indigo Blue. And I haven't used these very much, so this is going to be a bit of a trial and error, but we're just gonna see how it goes, and if it turns out terrible for me, then you know not to do the same. Or if you know how to use them a bit better than me, then go for it. But I'm going to use the method where I crayon onto the page and then use my water brush, which I am using a number 1 Derwent water brush, and a bit of a uncommon tool, but I have a nail brush as well, because I like how thin the end is on it. So I'm going to fade it down from the indigo blue at the top here to the black at the bottom, but my plan is to do a full layer of the indigo blue first and then do my black on top of it so that it can blend throughout a bit better. So I'm just going to give the whole area a light coat of the crayon itself. You don't have to worry about being too neat with this. I'm also hoping that if I go over any of the stars it won't matter, because I can draw some stars back in. I think what I'll do as well, before I actually put any water on here, I will put something behind the page again. Not that I'm afraid that it's going to go through, because I'm sure it won't. But I think I'd rather just be on the safe side rather than anything else. And also because January underneath has stickles on it. So yes, earlier I did mention that I was going to do this as part of the boat, but I've decided that with the way the boat is facing, I don't think that would be part of the boat, so I'm leaving it as part of the sky. So don't forget to do that section there as well. But like everything else, it's entirely up to you. If you think it looks like part of the boat, then colour it in the boat colours. If you think it's the sky, then do it the sky. I definitely don't think it's the cat though, because she is wearing a top. Maybe if she was all fur, then it could be the cat, because her tail is quite fluffy, so she does look like she's a fluffy cat. So I don't think it would have hurt to make it fluff if she wasn't wearing the t-shirt, or it looks like a blouse rather than a t-shirt. There we go. So that's that coated. And then I'm just going to, although should I put the black on now? See, this is the thing with hardly using them, I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing. Let's put a bit of black on, because I don't want it too dark either, that's the thing. And if I put a bit of black on now, then it might blend in a bit better and stop it from being fully black, if that makes any sense to you at all. So yeah, I'm just going to go to about there. And yeah, put a bit higher in the middle there. To about there. So I'd imagine this bit would definitely be dark. Because it's behind her. And the good thing about the Neocolors as well is that if we miss any parts, or if you want to add a little bit extra depth or colour, then you can use your brush and take it straight from the crayon at the end. Right, I am just going to grab some paper. And I'll put that underneath the centre of the page. And that, like I say, is going to help a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit more of the crayon just around these edges here and the edge of the moon. Just a little bit more down here. I originally was going to use my Inktense to do this background, but again I've not used them very much, so, and the fact that once you start adding water to Inktense, they can't be adjusted. I thought that I didn't really want to ruin my picture completely by using them and not being able to fix it, because I don't particularly want to just add an acrylic black background. I did want some kind of depth, which is why I'm doing the indigo blue as well. Right, so now, yes, like I said, I have my Derwent paintbrush in size 1 and my nail art brush. And for my nail art brush, I do have a little glass of water. I'm just using an egg cup, it's nothing special. Right, so I'm going to start with the blue and then come down to the black, because obviously doing the black first, it's going to spread it up and I might get it too far. I also have a piece of kitchen towel. I use a piece of kitchen towel quite regularly. They are a bit better than trying to wash your brush off as such. Right, there we go. I have my brush ready to go, and I'm going to put my little one in my water ready, because I have a feeling, especially on smaller parts, that I may need it. Okay, so let us go. As you can see with Neocolors, the initial laydown of them is a lot different to the colour itself when you put the water on them. So with having this dilemma I had with the cat, it's all because the other day the clip on the arm that I use on my desk for my videos completely snapped off. So I had to order a new stand altogether, and it came with a completely different mechanism to hold the phone in place, and it goes, well, my last clip held the phone on either side and you could see the screen with no problems whatsoever, and this one goes right the way over the screen. It holds your phone from top to bottom, and the holder itself covers your screen so you can't see any or very little of what you're trying to video. And the problem I've got is that, or the problem I had was that I didn't realise it, but when I put my phone back into the holder to re-video doing the cat part after getting the pencils I'd chosen, is that whilst I was setting it up, putting it back into the holder, I had pressed the record button on my phone, and obviously because once it's in the holder you can't see very well, I didn't realise that it was recording me setting myself up to do the video. So when I went to press record to video myself colouring in, I thought that that's what I had done, but I hadn't. I had just stopped the recording of me setting everything back up to colour the cat in. And it wasn't until I came to stop the video again after colouring the cat in so that I could get my Neocolor 2s out to do this part, that I realised that my phone screen had gone off, because obviously it hadn't been in use. And then that's when I realised that I hadn't recorded myself colouring in the little cat here. And it's extremely frustrating, to be honest. I was upset, really upset, because I'd coloured the whole cat in and I was really pleased with how it had turned out. And then obviously because this is in a book, it's not on a PDF, I couldn't go back and colour it all in again in the book. But then I remembered that when I bought the book, Kelly was very kind enough to send the whole calendar in an email as a PDF. So, I do have the resources there, as I said, that if you would like me to go through the process of how I achieved the look of the cat, then I can. It is a lot smaller. I have the picture here, I can show you. The picture itself is a lot smaller. So as you can see here, there's the owl here, and here is the owl on this picture. So it is a lot smaller, but you will still definitely be able to see the process that I went through to achieve the look that I have. So there's no problem there. But it wasn't until after I'd already calmed down from the fact that I hadn't recorded it the first time that I realised that I had the PDF copy of this book, or this calendar I should say. So it wasn't too bad. It's just the initial thought that I had mucked up, and for those of you following along, you expect to be able to colour along to the whole video, all parts of it, not just some. So yes, it is quite upsetting when it happens, but these things happen. It's done now. I do have ways of rectifying it. That isn't always going to be the case for these things. Some books you do just have the one copy of the book, because obviously some of these more beautiful books that we do collect and colour in are expensive because of either shipping forms or the fact that they're independently published and not produced on a mass scale or anything like that. So I mean, there are times like that where you're not going to be able to, in my case, colour it again or something like that. But you just have to make sure that when these things happen, that you don't get yourself too upset to the point where you think, oh well, I'm not going to continue, or people aren't going to want to watch me anymore because I don't follow through with everything I've done. But it's just one of those things. Like I said, I personally got upset because I thought at the time I didn't have another form of showing you what I did. But even if I didn't, these things happen. I'm new to YouTube. I'm still learning. I don't edit any of my videos. My partner does that for me. I just do the colourings or the painting, or as I'll do in the future, my 5Ds, card making, scrapbooking, journaling. All these things I do, but I don't do the tech that goes behind it. So sometimes, like I said, things can be fixed, other times it can't. But we just have to get on with it and hope that, one, it either doesn't happen again, or two, that if it does, we are able to rectify it and move on. And as I learnt today, many other people have also had this problem. I mean, it's not just something that only I have done. So now that I've got over my initial upset over the whole matter, I'm not too bad. I'm back to my cheery self in colouring in this picture for you all. And obviously for myself, because I'm the one that has to have it on my wall. I mean, this is the calendar that I keep on my living room wall. So for anyone who comes into my house, it is the first calendar they see. And probably the only one that they'll notice, because we don't have any other forms of pictures or mirrors up in our living room. Not as of yet anyways. I do have a couple of 5D paintings, one that I've completed and another one that I need to complete that I would like to put up in my living room. But I'm not going to put one up until the other one's done. I've just realised that they are the pegs, tuning pegs on the guitar, and I've just nearly painted over one of them. So yeah, these things happen. I'm going to get over it. So my only advice to people who start up a YouTube channel or have started up a YouTube channel, if it happens to you, don't worry about it, because like I says, even if you don't have a PDF copy or another copy of the book for you to go through what you've done, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're colouring your picture in the way you like, and I'm totally sure nobody minds. They don't mind at all, because everybody in the colouring community is so lovely. And we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. And I've found that it's not just people in the colouring community, it's the whole world of crafts. Everybody is just so nice and forgiving. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy doing all of the things that I do, and also why I don't just do one or two of them. I try to dabble my hand in quite a few different crafts. And yes, colouring is my main craft. So now and again, well, I'll mostly do colouring, but now and again I will show other crafts I do on my channel. So yes, at the moment this is looking rather patchy. However, I have heard that if you leave this to dry completely and then go over with pencils, it's meant to work really well. I am not going to go over with pencil, mainly because it is a lot of work to do backgrounds in pencil if you're doing big areas, and I like the way this is looking sort of patchy, because in a way that's what watercolours are meant to be like, a little bit watery, and hence the name. And for this picture, because it is a nighttime scene, I do like the blotchiness. I think it makes it look a bit more mysterious for being like a nighttime picture, and I'm not just making an excuse, because at the moment it looks, to some people this will look terrible. But I don't know if you've watched my very first video where I showed my completed pages and my works in progresses. I have a Kirby Rosan's image from his Imagimorphia poster book of the owls, and I did a watercolour nighttime sky on that, where I just used one acrylic paint. I think it was acrylics, or did I use watercolours? I think it was acrylics. Yes, I think it was acrylic. And I made that look blotchy and mysterious, and give me just a moment, my brush is deciding not to give me any more water. There we go. Yes, that sky was blotchy, but what I liked about that was because it was in a forest. The owls were in trees, and obviously you're not just, well, unless they're at the very edge of the forest, but you're not just going to have a tree and then it be all sky behind it. So what I liked about that picture when I did that sky was it made it look as if it was going deeper into the forest, and it was dark and mysterious. I mean, that's just my thoughts. That's not going to be how everyone thinks the blotchiness makes it look. Because we don't all think the same. The world would be very, very boring if everyone looked, dressed and thought the same. A very boring place indeed. So this will be my second time I have used my Neocolors. The first time was around the outside of January. I did the blue and the pinks and blended them together. That was my first time using my Neocolor tubes properly. So this is my second. Very convenient how they're both in the same book. So I'm just having a quick look there to see if there's anywhere I have missed. What I might try once it's dried up is to give maybe the black another coat, or I may very well just leave it as it is. I'm just going to get the crayon there and touch that bit up, just blending that out. Get the black as well. Just do a bit here. yes, I do like the blotchiness because for a night sky, like I say, I think it gives it a bit more depth, and that's just what I like. So I did not need to use my smaller nibbed brush. I got away with using this one. Some of the things like the tuning pegs off the guitar, they might not stand out now, but when I come to add the details, I'll make them stand out a bit better with a Posca pen. Just so that they don't just blend into nothingness. You can't actually tell what they are. So I definitely will use these more, and my Inktense pencils, because obviously if I don't use them, then I'm never going to improve my technique. Just gonna get the black back in down here. There we go. Obviously this isn't dark black because I've only put a very light coat on, and we also have the indigo blue underneath it. I don't think that looks too bad. I have gone over the stars just slightly, but I've got an idea for those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this here, and in my next video, because I want to let this all dry first, I will finish up the stars. I'm going to add a few spits and spots with a Posca pen around the ones that's already there, and we will also finish off by adding the rest of the details to the page. So thank you for watching this video. I know it's been a bit of a longer one, and we did have the mishap. Like I said, if you would like to see how I achieved this particular look for the cat, I do have the smaller image that I can go through showing you step by step how I did it. I will still put the combo colours I've used for her in the description. I will put the description colours for the owl and the honey pot, and I will put the two new colours that I've used for the night sky. And I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.